Hey everyone, so I've been playing a lot with the DS here and got this idea because of the two screens. I've been having trouble getting some work done and things like that, playing too many video games. So I thought, hey, maybe I'll clone myself to lighten the workload. Problem is, if you clone yourself, that clone shares your whole personality and everything like that, so now we just have two people who only want to play video games and fighting over all the consoles. That wasn't a smart idea. Hey everyone, how's it going? totallevel here, and today I have a video game collection video for all of you, the Nintendo DS. So this is my original DS, first console I bought with my first ever job, so this one means a lot. Yes, this is still my DS from back in those days. Played this a ton in high school, and the only other DS I have is this red one. Used to have a few more, but yeah, trade them in for games, and then yeah, DSi XL, and I'll trade in for 3DS, which kind of sucks because I didn't realize you needed that DS to transfer all this stuff from the SD card onto the 3DS, right? So that kind of sucks. Luckily, I only bought like I think 2 or 3 games on the DSi Wear shop, so it wasn't too bad, but still was a bit annoying, right? But I love the Nintendo DS. It was such a weird, unique system at the time, right? And did so much for gaming moving forwards, for handheld gaming and mobile gaming, right? It was just a great machine. So yeah, I have a little over 50 games, I think 56 to be exact, with 4 of them being Japanese imports, which I'll save those for the end of my collection. But yeah, just want to share everything. So yeah, I have gameplay for every single game, and I recorded all the gameplay myself, so everything you're seeing is me playing these games. Now, few things to keep in mind. Because I don't have this DS or 3DS or anything, I don't have it modded or anything like that, so every game you see is through emulation. Which brings me to my next point is, while most games run pretty fine on emulation, there's some that have some hiccups here and there, like the Pokemon games have some weird graphical like specs here and there, like there's random black dots and like heart gold and I think like black and white as well. But yeah, and Zelda Phantom Hourglass, that one is probably the most egregious one, because yeah, there's something with the shading and the black like lines that just, yeah, it doesn't emulate super well. It still plays fine, but yeah, there's a lot of visual glitches with that one, just so you know. And for the game Rhapsody, a musical adventure, I do have it on DS, but I was running into emulation problems with that one. Like game was running fine, but there were a lot of flashes, both using Desumi and Melon DS, because I have 2 different emulators for DS. And so yeah, instead of using any gameplay for that game, I'm using the Switch version of Rhapsody, just so you know, as yeah, but everything else is through like DS gameplay, like DS emulation to record all the gameplay. So yeah, that's the only game that won't have like the DS kind of 2 screens or anything like that, just so you know. So without further ado, let's look at my Nintendo DS collection. I hope you enjoyed this. Normally I start with Mario, but because it's Nintendo handhelds, let's face it, it's the home of Pokemon, as we got Pokemon Heart Gold to start things off. Excellent remake of Gold and Silver, right? It's just amazing. It uses kind of like the Pokemon Diamond Pearls or style, right, and engine, but yeah, just really great quality of life improvements while just making the game still that core Pokemon experience, right? And that's kind of sort of hope for these games, right? Because now it's a lot easier catching some of the legendary Pokemons, because if people forget how rough it was with the original games with 3 legendary dogs, man, that was a pain to deal with. It's a bit easier with Heart Gold, Soul Silver, and, fun little DS connectivity, and, the touchscreen, and of course the Pokewalker, right? So, yeah, just an excellent game and excellent Pokemon experience all around. Then we have Pokemon Diamond, and to be honest, I'm not a big fan of Gen 4 here. I found it kind of boring. The Pokemon designs themselves I found kind of boring, right? Just pretty generic, right? And Team Galactic is very generic too. Their whole goal is just kind of dumb, right? But still, it's Pokemon, it's old school Pokemon, they're still fun, and definitely played a lot of this in high school. Everyone in high school was playing this game, right? And so, yeah, a lot of great memories with this one, just not my favorite out of the Pokemon games. Then we have Pokemon Black, and I actually like this one a lot. I know this one gets a lot of flack from people, but I really enjoyed it. Now, Pokemon designs, yes, some of them were really dumb. I mean, they literally created garbage Pokemon in this one, right? But the story is fantastic of Team Plasma along with the character N, right? It's just really great storytelling. While your rivals aren't the greatest in this one, the rest of the story is very fascinating, and it was just a lot of fun, like, yes, you don't get to collect any of the old Pokemon until after you beat the game and things like that, but sometimes I don't mind that for these kind of reboots of Pokemon, right? And, also this was the start of the Pokemon anime changing their art style, right? And, where the art style for Black and all that, like, wasn't too Black and White wasn't too bad. It was once they got to Sun and Moon that they really, I don't know what that art style is, but yeah, it's just, oh man, that's rough. But yeah, Pokemon Black, really enjoy. Unfortunately, can't say the same about Pokemon White 2. It's a decent game, but for a sequel and everything, it's kind of boring, it's kind of bland, it's pretty forgettable. I don't remember too much of this one, actually, even just kind of quickly replaying the beginning parts of this, I'm like, man, I don't really remember this game. Like, I can remember certain characters from the previous one of Black and White of, being certain, like, gym leaders or certain parts here and there, right? But yeah, that's pretty much it that I can remember. I just, yeah, not the most enjoyable, but again, Pokemon, they're just fun. This style of Pokemon is always fun for me, even if they're not my favorites to play through. And then Pokemon Conquest. This was such a weird one, crossover between Nabuso Ambition. Oh man, I can never remember the name of that series, but kind of like a strategy, and sometimes kind of Dynasty Warriors type games. And then, yeah, you got Pokemon. It's just super weird, but it's really fun, really cool, tactical RPG style, right? Now, it could be better, there's not a whole lot of Pokemon. You can only learn like one move per Pokemon, right? So you're kind of limited on the strategy elements, right? And it can be quite challenging and frankly cheap, but still, I really enjoy this. I wish they would do more kind of Pokemon tactical sort of style games, because it works really well. You got your rock paper scissors element already there, so it would work perfect for a tactical RPG. Heck, I think it'd be great to have a Dynasty Warriors type game, or real-time strategy even. It'd just be kind of neat to see that with Pokemon. Then we go into Mario, starting with Mario Kart DS. So this one really enjoy. Now, tracks themselves not like the most memorable or the most creative or anything, but the biggest thing with this game is its mission mode, because in this one you get kind of these quick little missions, and once you complete all of them, you get a little boss battle that's kind of playing tribute to a lot of Super Mario 64, right, with their boss battles, and it's just a really cool element, and that was one of the big reasons why I preferred Diddy Kong Racing over Mario Kart 64, was because Diddy Kong had this adventure mode, had these boss battles of racing against, the dinosaurs, right, and so this is what kind of reminds me of this with Mario Kart DS. So yeah, I wish they would kind of go back to this because this was such a cool idea, and be great to see that like bring back, kind of your 3D platformer boss battles from the Mario games into Mario Kart. That would be pretty cool to see. Then we have Mario vs. Donkey Kong Mini Land Mayhem. So this is the third game, I believe, in the Mario vs. Donkey Kong kind of series that they started on Game Boy Advance, and I really like this one. Now, I know by this point people were kind of tired of it. It was the same formula over and over again. For me, though, this was my first and still only experience with this series, so I haven't felt that way, right? But yeah, I really enjoyed this. I got this from my mom, I believe, on Christmas many years ago, and yeah, just really enjoy it. You're trying to get these little mini Marios, and as you progress, you get other characters that you have to try and get through these doors and these levels, right? And then you get little boss battles afterwards once you complete the levels. It's really enjoyable. I know there's a new one now on Switch that came out not too long ago, but yeah, I don't really hear much about that one, so I don't know if it's any good or anything. I haven't picked it up yet, but yeah, just, this is a fun little casual experience I found. Now we get into the Mario and Luigi games with Partners in Time here, so really enjoyed this one, though it does need a bit of work, like, they remade Superstar Saga and Bowser's Inside Story, but really this was the one that probably should have been remade because there's certain issues, certain pacing issues, and control wise and everything, but it's still a really enjoyable game. You're going kind of back in time and meeting up with baby Mario and baby Luigi, right, and trying to save the past so that you can save the present, right? And just, it's silly, it's fun, and doesn't last too long, right? So yeah, it's just a solid good time. Then we get into Mario and Luigi Bowser's Inside Story, and this is the best game in the series, hands down. Like, I love Superstar Saga, but man, Bowser's Inside Story is just such a joy to play because, yeah, Bowser gets tricked, eats this kind of green mushroom where he's starting to inhale everything, including Mario and Luigi and other people from the Mushroom Kingdom. And so Mario and Luigi are, inside Bowser, so Bowser's kind of interacting on the outside while Mario and Luigi are, doing things inside Bowser. It's really silly, really funny, great humor, great dialogue. It's one of the most well-written RPG experiences out there. It's just such a joy to play. Highly recommend this one. And yeah, there's the remake on 3DS, which people kind of debate on which one's better, but just so you know, the DS version of Bowser's Inside Story is much cheaper and probably easier to find, so yeah, it might be the way for you to go, but yeah, highly recommend. Now we have The Legend of Zelda Phantom Hourglass, so yeah, again, I said this at the start, but sorry, the emulation wasn't great on this one now. For this game, I quite enjoyed this one. This was a fun little Zelda experience, though it was, kind of short and pretty easy, but also a bit annoying because you have to use the touchscreen to move. You use the stylus to drag across the screen to make Link move, and that was kind of annoying to deal with, but other than that, it's another solid Zelda entry. Not my favorite, but I do find it a bit underrated. There's really clever puzzles in the game, and I do like that when you want mark something on the map, or there's puzzles you have to do, you can mark it, you can bring up the map and then draw on it on the touchscreen, right? And really enjoyed that too. Yeah, just label things on the map, so that's really cool. And yeah, I do hope to get Spirit Tracks at some point, but I know that one can be both hard to find and pretty expensive, right? So yeah, we'll see. I do have it digitally on the Wii U, but Wii U DS emulation, not the greatest, not the most fun to use, I found, but you know, hopefully I'll get a physical of that one at some point. Then we have Diddy Kong Racing DS. So this was kind of weird because at the time Rare was owned by Microsoft, right? So you know, it was kind of weird to see them do like a handheld experience, but they done a few for Nintendo, right? Like there was a Banjo-Kazooie game on Game Boy Advance, right? And there was some deal that, yeah, they could still work on like Nintendo handhelds, but for this sort of remake, you know, it's solid, but the original's much better, right? Like, it's, you know, they couldn't have some of the old characters, obviously, you know, Banjo or Conker, right? So they just added ones from like Donkey Kong Country in this, which was cool. And you know, now you have to kind of rev up at the start on the touchscreen to get a boost at the start and things like that. But yeah, there were just too many changes that kind of lost the charm with this one for me, right? And so it's a solid experience. I think people would still enjoy this one, but I do prefer the N64 game. Then we have Golden Sun Dark Dawn. This one is a highly underrated title. You know, a lot of people always talk about the Game Boy Advance ones for good reason too, because, you know, I will say Dark Dawn is probably like the weakest of the Golden Sun games, but by no means is it bad or anything, you know, like, yes, you don't have the great pixel art style anymore, but it's still Golden Sun, it's still a lot of fun, still great combat, great characters. It takes place much later now. You're the son of, yeah, the first hero of Isaac, right? So, you know, there's just really cool connections. I hope one day we get a new one because, yeah, let's just say we need a new one. The story's not finished, you know, and I'll just say that much. But yeah, this was a pretty fun experience and one that I highly recommend people check out. And then we have WarioWare Do It Yourself. So this was kind of cool, you know, you get to make your own micro games now, but the big issue with this one, especially now that there's no servers for DS, 3DS, is the, you know, making your own micro games, they last, you know, anywhere between like 2 to at most maybe 15 seconds, right? Maybe 20, you know, depending, but when you're making your own, you know the deal with it, you know how to beat your own creation, right? So the whole idea was to download other people's creations, or you would get a bunch of friends over and you would make micro games, they would make micro games, and you would all play each other's, right? But yeah, it's it was pretty basic because you could only, I believe in this one, like I only replayed a little bit, but I think you can only really make kind of touchscreen ones, like tapping ones. You can't really do a whole lot of like swiping ones. There's no microphone ones you can do or anything like that, right? So it's pretty limited. It was a cool idea at the time, but for this game, it's, yeah, one of the weaker WarioWare titles, I would say. Now we move on to the RPGs, starting with Final Fantasy XII Revenant Wings. Wow, I butchered that, but we'll just move on. But yeah, a sequel to Final Fantasy XII, and this was a pretty fun title, you know, it's kind of real-time strategy type of kind of tactical RPG, right? Where you have, you know, your rock, paper, scissors elements of, you know, certain characters will do more damage to others, and yeah, you're kind of moving in real time and selecting characters to attack, and yeah, just pretty solid experience, and if you like Final Fantasy 12, this one I think you would enjoy too, to get more story out of these characters. Then we have Final Fantasy Tactics A2 Grimoire of the Rift, so another solid Final Fantasy Tactics title that has a bit of a similar story setup to the Game Boy Advance one of Tactics Advance, where you're kid in school and it's summer break, but your teacher says no summer break for you because you were bad for missing class and things like that, so you have to do like a punishment in the library, clean it, all that, and as you're in the library, you're reading a book that the book transports you to this new world of Ivalice, right? And same world as like Final Fantasy 12, and yeah, again, pretty fun. I do wish they got rid of the judge system, but it's still here, right? Like, judge system is solid idea, but just not the greatest execution with it because it can just be annoying to deal with. But overall, this is another fun tactical RPG and fun in the Final Fantasy Tactics series, where hopefully we get a brand new game at some point. I know there's a remaster coming, which unfortunately isn't going to have a whole lot of there's content going to be missing from that one, unfortunately, which really sucks because they had an opportunity to give us the best definitive edition, give us the War of the Lions content and improve on it, because War of the Lions on PSP had a lot of performance issues, right? So could have been a great way to just fix all that, but yeah, it is what it is. But hey, Final Fantasy Tactics here on DS, pretty solid experience. Sorry, went on a bit of a tangent there. Then we have Final Fantasy IV Heroes of Light. So this is the original Bravely Default. So yeah, this is the game that turned into Bravely Default, and I did drop this one because I was playing it earlier this year, but it just it's a little too old school for me now. I do like old school, and I probably will come back to this one, but I just have to be in the right mood for it, right? It's just too much, like there's no waypoints. There's a lot of points where I had to use a walkthrough because I had no idea what to do. There was like this water spell I had to get, and I had no idea how to get it early on in the game, right? And yeah, you have to enter town at night so that a guard will leave so you can go in a dungeon, right? But I did want to play it because I still have to play Bravely Default, but for now it's dropped, but maybe I'll come back to it maybe after I actually play through Bravely Default. Then there's Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles Rings of Fate. Now, haven't really played this, so this footage is just me starting the game, and I might play this one kind of soon because while not a big fan of the voice acting or the characters you play as, the combat though, really fun. It's kind of hack and slash like, right? And yeah, just a little bit I played, I'm like, man, this is kind of fun. I might play this soon, so yeah, look forward to that. But yeah, I can't really say too much about this game. Then there's Dragon Quest IX Sentinels of the Starry Skies. This was a lot of fun. It's quite different from Dragon Quest games, because Dragon Quest, you're usually either by yourself or you gather a party and you're going out on adventure, going from town to town, things like that. But this one, you're like this angel, right? And you're kind of protecting the people down on Earth, and it's pretty fun. It's very different, but it's a solid Dragon Quest 9, Dragon Quest experience as Dragon Quest 9, here we go, is was going to say, I kind of jumped ahead, that this game is pretty underrated, I found, in the Dragon Quest series, right? It's modifying combat is still your typical Dragon Quest, and yeah, I mean, anyone who's a fan of this series would probably really enjoy this one too. And then there's Dragon Quest Monsters Joker, so this is the only Dragon Quest Monsters game I have besides the Switch game, The Dark Prince, and this one, yeah, pretty fun, Pokemon type experience. You're going and competing in this tournament because you're thrown in jail, so it's like, okay, well, as punishment or to help us, like, you can do this tournament, right? And yeah, it's pretty solid, pretty fun, but the big issue is, again, it's has a bit old school design to it, right? Like, you're running into monsters to start battles, but if you don't want to battle, it's very tough to avoid the enemies here. Like, they chase you to no end, right? So it can be a bit tricky to avoid enemies if you just want to get to the next area or things like that. You don't really want to fight right now, right? But yeah, it's a fun little Pokemon type experience that I love anything Pokemon, so yeah, I quite enjoyed this one. Then we have Kingdom Hearts 358 over 2 days. I think that's how you say it. I'm not quite sure, but this was a pretty solid spin-off of Kingdom Hearts. It's one of the few where I say this is actually kind of necessary to have as a spin-off game, because so many Kingdom Hearts ones, I'm just like, man, you didn't really need to make this a spin-off, and it's just kind of annoying that you need to play the spin-offs to get the whole story, right? But yeah, this kind of tells the story of Roxas and Organization 13 and the lead up to Kingdom Hearts 2. So that's really cool, and combat's quite fun, and Kingdom Hearts always enjoy, even if they disappoint me, I still have fun with them. So yeah, another fun one, and one of the few spin-off games that I really enjoy. Then we have The World Ends With You, so I still have to play through this. It's funny, I played the sequel. I know a lot about this game because I have a friend who really loves The World Ends With You, so I kind of know the whole story before I played the sequel of Neo, right? But yeah, basically you're playing this Reaper's game as you're dead, apparently, and so you're playing this game to try and get back to life. And yeah, it's very interesting, very great art style, very unique combat. It's one of the just most interesting, unique games out there, and yeah, it's too bad that we'll probably not get another game in the series now that, like the director or something like that of The World Ends With You has left Square Enix, so yeah, the franchise is kind of up in the air now, but yeah, we'll have to see. Then we have Valkyrie Profile Covenant of the Plume, or Plum, but yeah, this one I haven't really played. I haven't played any Valkyrie Profile game. I know I need to get on it, right? So can't say too much about this, but the little bit I played seems like another solid kind of tactical RPG. I like that when you enter battle, if everyone's kind of in the vicinity to fight, you get to, do attacks with all of them, just, pressing the buttons, right? So seems like it's going to be a pretty fun experience. Just, yeah, I haven't played or beaten any Valkyrie Profile game, so yeah, it's definitely one of those backlog of shame things. Then there's Heroes of Mana, real-time strategy RPG, right? And yeah, pretty solid spin-off of the Mana series, right? Where now you get to, use the rat bites to gather materials, and anyone who's played a real-time strategy, played Age of Empires and things like that, they'll kind of know how to play this now. Not perfect, because there are unfortunately glitches with this game where your characters will constantly kind of get stuck, so you have to really micromanage a lot of things, but I still quite enjoyed this. It was a fun little experience and played it quite a bit when I originally had it in high school. The copy I have here was one I got later on, wanted to get this copy again, so yeah, just pretty fun little, spin-off of Mana. Then we have Blue Dragon Plus, so the sequel to Blue Dragon, taking place a year after their first game, and another kind of real-time strategy type of tactical style, something like Final Fantasy XII, Revenant Wings. Wow, why can't I say that? I'm not even sure saying the name right for that, but I love Blue Dragon, I love Miss Walker, and it's too bad that never really fully worked out for them, especially when they were doing games on Microsoft for the 360, but it's cool that we at least got some more Blue Dragon games on the DS here, as the big problem with this series is it couldn't find its own identity, as we'll move on to Blue Dragon Awakened Shadow to show what I mean, because every one of these games is a completely different game. The first game on 360 is a turn-based RPG, second game is a tactical, real-time kind of strategy type game, and this one is an action RPG, right, as takes place 2 years after the events of the first game, and in this one you're either a boy or girl who wakes up in this mysterious kind of dungeon and arrives in town, only to find that everyone except for you has lost their shadow, their ability to use like these powerful shadow attacks, right? And you're the only one, so you're kind of investigating down in this dungeon and just kind of trying to figure out what's going on. Pretty fun game, but it is kind of laggy here and there, right? It's on the DS, so that's kind of expected, but I had quite fun with this one, and the Blue Dragon series, just a good time all around. Then we have Away Shuffle Dungeon, so this was another Miss Walker one, and probably the weakest of the Miss Walker games, but it's still a lot of fun, where you have these dungeons you go into, and every few seconds either the top or bottom screen will shuffle to a new pattern, right? And that's really cool, it's really unique, so you have to kind of strategize and get your person either on the bottom or top screen to make sure you don't take a lot of damage, right? And you're kind of just going through these small little dungeons floor to floor to get to the next area, next boss, everything like that. And it's a pretty fun game, but it is pretty forgettable. Story characters, not much to write home about, but pretty fun. Then we have Spectrobe, so this is like the first and maybe only game that Disney Interactive actually made that wasn't a licensed game. Like, I know it's the first one, but I can't remember if it's the only series they did that is its own original title, but for Spectrobes, it's kind of your Pokemon-like type experience, but when I say that, don't expect a Pokemon type experience in terms of gameplay. It's very different. You're collecting these fossils, doing these kind of little mini games to excavate these fossils, which can be annoying to deal with at first. You have to get used to it. Like, you will break a lot of fossils at the beginning, but this first one, solid game, but combat wise it's pretty clunky, and that's the overall experience with the first game here. It is pretty clunky. There's a lot of control issues I found, so it was an okay experience but not a great one. Then Spectro's Beyond the Portals, much better game. It improves on so many aspects. The combat is so much better, and it's just a lot more fun to play through. There's also another one on the Wii, Spectrobe's Origins, which takes place before these two games, right? And just a cool experience, and yeah, these these Spectros games were pretty fun and pretty underrated. You can also get them for very, very cheap. They're like probably under $10 each of them. Next, we have The Wizard of Oz Beyond the Yellow Brick Road. So this one was an okay game, you know. It's very expensive now, like, wow, it just skyrocketed in price, but yeah, this was a pretty fun game, you know. Combat is pretty Dragon Quest-like, right? Or, you know, where you have this kind of first-person view, and each character has a certain amount of attacks they can do, like Dorothy and Scarecrow, they can do up to 4 attacks, right? Where the other 2 characters can only do 1 or 2 attacks at a time because they're more powerful. And my issue with this, though, is it's touchscreen controls only. There are no button controls, and this game, there's no excuse for it because you're moving by swiping on this trackball on the bottom screen, and it's just, you know, everything with this game you could just use buttons for, but for whatever reason, yeah, it was just decided that touchscreen controls only, so that holds it back, along with the fact that this is a, you know, meant to be kind Little Jimmy's little first RPG, right? So it's not going to be super challenging or super interesting, you know, it's pretty linear experience, right? So it's a solid game, but not a great one. Then we have Contact. So this is Grasshopper Suda 51. So you get a weird experience. You get experience that like Earthbound, where they're breaking the fourth wall, and you have these 2 different art styles. It's very weird and interesting, though it's quite off-putting at times because, yeah, it kind of messes with your head, I found. But this was, you know, the bits I played, I still have to play all the way through, but the bits I played was quite fun and interesting. I was laughing and, yeah, breaking this fourth wall. It was just a fun little experience, but yeah, it's definitely not going to be for everyone, but if you like Earthbound, this might be one you might want to keep your eyes on. Now we have Rhapsody, a musical adventure. So like I said, I'm going to be showing the Switch version of this because emulations of this that I tried to use had a lot of flashes on it, so yeah, I don't need to give someone epilepsy or anything like that, but you know, I quite enjoyed this game. Now, on the DS, you only got Japanese voices and musical numbers in Japanese, right? Just so you know. But it's a fun little musical RPG adventure, right? You're playing as Cornet, who's, you know, in love with this prince, right? And trying to get noticed, and you know, and she loves to sing, and it's very silly, very basic, right? It's a very easy game, so it's not going to be your greatest RPG. Like, I would say this is kind of your 7 out of 10 type of RPG, but it's pretty fun for what it is. Now we have Glory of Heracles. So this, I think, was one of the early DS titles. Maybe it wasn't, I'm not sure, but this was a solid game too. This is another kind of 7 out of 10 type experience. There's quite a lot of humor in it. The combat is quite fun. So yeah, this was an enjoyable game, but it's also pretty forgettable, you know. It's not something that I would really go back to a whole lot, not something I talk about a whole lot, but for what it is, it's pretty, you know, nice and easy, relaxing, you know, like I said, good amount of humor, and it's one you can buy for very cheap too. Next we have Puzzle Chronicles. So I love these kind of puzzle RPG games, but this one, not so much. The big reason is this game uses RNG way too much. Like, you have to be quite lucky to win in this game, and it's just like, it's just kind of annoying to deal with, right? Like if you don't get what you need at the start of a battle, most likely you're going to lose, and that's really annoying that you need to rely on RNG that much, right? So, yeah, not my favorite. Puzzle Kingdoms, however, really enjoyed this one. It's pretty simple. You're matching the, symbols, and it's pretty easy to play. Like I said, I quite like these because they're nice, easy to pick up and play RPGs. They're, nothing outstanding about them story-wise, character-wise. It's all forgettable, but again, it's just solid fun for me to play these games through. But yeah, not much to talk about otherwise. Now we move on to everything else that I couldn't really put a category in, starting with Dragon Quest Heroes Rocket Slime. So yeah, this is probably my favorite DS game ever. I love this game so much. It's a Zelda type adventure kind of game where, yeah, you and your friends are playing with this kind of warrior flute, and then your dad comes by looking for it, so your friends shove it in you, and then, yeah, the Platypus army kind of comes by looking for the flute, and they kind of capture all the slime, and they're about to capture you until, yeah, you're still stuck with the flute in your mouth, so they throw you away not thinking, oh, you're a slime, and yeah, so you go on this adventure, kind of, yeah, saving everyone, and man, it's just so much fun. I love the tank battles you get to do in this game. I love it so much, and it's basic, like it's around 20 hours long, but man, I just have a lot of fun playing it, and I can't really explain why I love this one so much. Just, the art style is so fun and charming, the characters are goofy, right? And it just has so much charm to it, and it's addictive. It's addictive to go through these levels, collecting these items, sending them back to your hut, village, right? And building your tank up for better weapons, and kind of trying to decide what to use for your weapons, because your more powerful weapons, they might be destructive, but they shoot out of your tank much slower, so it's easier for the enemy to block them, right? And versus if you have ones that do less damage, well, most likely they fire very quickly, so it's a lot easier to hit your enemy. So it's kind of the strategy of trying, like, which items do you use and things like that. And man, it's just ton of fun. I love it. I wish we got more in this series, because there's one on the Game Boy Advance along with 3DS, but sadly the second one is the only one we got in the whole series, and I'm sad about it. Next we have Professor Layton and the Curious Village. So yeah, this is the only Professor Layton game I've beaten. I know I gotta get on the other ones. Like, I know a good bit of this series, and friends have shown me other ones in the series, so I know bits and pieces of certain stories here and there, and I know they can get quite dramatic and sort of sad, right? But I love this series, and I know I need to play more, as I think there's like 4 games on the DS, and then there's like maybe another 4 on 3DS, including like the Phoenix Wright crossover game, right? But yeah, just, fun little puzzles. Now, this first game, pretty basic as far as story goes. You're going to settle this air dispute, right? Because everyone's looking for this treasure, and yeah, when you get there, certain things happen, right? But, story-wise, it's a nice little setup. You're kind of here for the puzzles for this first game, right? And yeah, they're very clever. Some puzzles can be diabolical, like in difficulty, but man, it's just a lot of fun to play through. Then we have Professor Layton and the Diabolical Box, or Pandora's Box if you're in PAL territories, and yeah, setup for this one is, yeah, you're kind of taking a train, you're visiting a professor, but when you visit that professor, he is dead, so you kind of have to investigate and do more of these puzzles. So yeah, I need to play more of these games. I know, as again, super fun, super enjoyable, characters very charming, very professional, and they're all gentlemen, right? It's just, yeah, it's great fun. And speaking of gentlemen, there's no greater gentleman than Henry Hatsworth in The Puzzling Adventure. So yeah, this was just full of charm, and I know a certain Square Pegs who would definitely approve of this game for sure. But yeah, it's fun. It's this kind of side-scrolling platforming action game, right? But on the bottom screen, you're doing these puzzles, because as you defeat enemies, they're kind of on the bottom screen now, and you want to solve the puzzles, you know, so that you don't take extra damage. It's kind of this cool sort of switch back and forth between the top and bottom, and you get, you know, boss battles. It's just charm after charm after charm. Like, this is such a charming game, and man, I love it. I still have to beat it. I'm still pretty early on, but man, do I really love this game already, and it's one that I think I'll be playing pretty soon in the near future. Next, we have Peggle Dual Shot. So for Peggle, yeah, this is kind of what is it, Plinko type of deal, or wherever, you know, you're trying to get all the orange balls kind of shot at so that you can beat these levels. And yeah, this is just simple, you know, casual fun, something you can play for 5 minutes or like 2 hours, right? It's just easy to pick up and play. Not much to these Peggle games, but they are just fun, relaxing games, and yeah, there's not much to say about them. There's not much to talk about here. Then we have the Drawn to Life series. So starting with the first game, and I do wish Fifth Cell could get more, you know, like budget behind these games. Same with like the Scribblenauts series, right? Because this is a pretty interesting idea where, you know, you're drawing the hero of the story, right? You're just creating your own character of who's going to be the hero. You're drawing certain objects to get, you know, to progress further in the game and everything like that. So it's pretty cool, but it's very basic. It's quite short, and there's just not a whole lot of replay value besides like playing it again and creating new objects, right? So yeah, it's again not much to talk about, and it's the same with Drawn to Life Next Chapter. You know, this was also on the Wii, which was always weird to me because you're drawing things, like it makes sense with the stylus, but on the Wii it's very awkward to draw things on there. But you know, kind of same thing is, yeah, just because of the low budget, it doesn't go as far as it could, because there's a lot of cool ideas you could do with something like this, right? Of, you know, creating a bunch of objects, like if you create an RPG per se, like you're creating like your own weapons or your own swords, and maybe you're creating a hammer for a certain, you know, like there's so much you could do. But yeah, sadly, Fifth Cell not like the biggest company out there, right? And then you have the kind of crossover with Drawn to Life SpongeBob SquarePants edition here. So yeah, we have Doodle Bob who's at it again because Patrick, you know, an artist, drops 2 pencils on his boat this time, and Patrick picks one up and draws Doodle Bob even though he knows he's not supposed to, but it's too late now, and so you have to go on this, again, SpongeBob adventure to, you know, stop Doodle Bob, and you get like certain power-ups if you choose SpongeBob, Patrick, or Squidward to come with you. You know, pretty silly, but these Drawn to Life games, they are pretty fun, but just not as much fun as it could be if you had higher budget, more ambition, things like that. Now we have Elite Beat Agents, and I could put this with the Nintendo game since this was published by Nintendo, but because there is another series and it's made by a company that's, you know, known for just making like music, rhythm kind of games, it's like, I'll just put it here, but love this game a lot. It uses kind of 90s, early 2000s pop punk type music, right? And yeah, you get these silly little cutscenes, you know, as the Elite Beat Agents are trying to help people around the world, and yeah, just silly fun, and a lot, like, I love music rhythm games so much. I don't know what it is about them that I just always love, but yeah, just incredible fun. I wish we got more of these Elite Beat Agents. Then we have Age of Empires, the Age of Kings. Now I'm going to apologize, I wasn't able to capture a whole lot of gameplay for this because the emulation used kept freezing on me. And I used 2 different emulators for DS games and both of them kept doing the same thing. So yeah, we just have the early tutorial stuff, so sorry about that, but yeah, hopefully one day I'll be able to capture more without it freezing on me, but yeah, this was my first ever DS game. I quite enjoyed this one, as I really enjoyed Age of Empires, so having this kind of strategy type game, you know, turn-based, was a ton of fun. And there's quite a bit of strategy with this one because you have terrain advantages along with just your unit advantages and disadvantages, right? So yeah, and you're going through all these different timelines and arcs and these great people of power, right? So yeah, just cool stuff. Then we have Lego Battles Ninjago. So this one I picked up for like $2 or something at Value Village quite a while ago. This was just something I saw and looked at the bag. It's like, oh, it's a real-time strategy game? Okay, sure, why not? I don't mind taking a chance. I like the Lego games, and yeah, this one not the greatest. It's very slow. I found a lot of characters get stuck constantly, and because I wasn't really into the story or characters or anything, I don't know anything about Ninjago. That it just wasn't super interesting, but hey, it costs like $2 and maybe you would enjoy it yourselves. Next we have Alice in Wonderland, and this is a very underrated game, excellent game. It's a Metroidvania. Now I do wish that, again, it didn't use so many touch controls, but regardless of that, it's still a really fun experience as you're rabbits guiding Alice through Wonderland, and you know, they're like, the art style is really charming in this. I really enjoy it, and yeah, there's just so much fun to be had with this one. So Alice in Wonderland on DS, I think a lot of people would be surprised by how fun it is, and it's another one you can get for pretty cheap. Speaking of getting it for cheap, we have Batman the Brave and the Bold. So yeah, based off the show, and they have a DS and Wii versions. Both are completely different games and both are really fun. I do like the Wii one more, you know, you get to do co-op along with having voice acting, right? But the DS one, very solid and way forward, man. They do a lot of great stuff with a lot of these licensed titles, right? So yeah, Batman Brave and Bold, you know, just another fun little title, and yeah, fun little beat 'em up, and it's pretty easy too because yeah, even if you die, you just reset and you try again, so there's no real big consequences, no real like getting angry at the game or frustrating moments, right? Like there's some jumping here and there, and there's some enemies here and there that are placed in kind of cheap locations, but it's still not bad and pretty fun. Now we have Ninja Gaiden Dragon Sword. So this was a surprise for me. This was a lot of fun, and even though it's touch controls, it's really cool, like how it's utilized, and it's one of the few games outside of, you know, your brain teaser ones like Brain Age, where you have to hold the DS to its sides, which is why you're seeing the game kind of blown up on the screen here, because like trying to get kind of how like to capture and all that, like this was just the best way to do it and everything. And yeah, it's really fun, really great combat, really great movement. It's just a ton of fun to play, and yeah, I was pleasantly surprised with this one, you know. And yeah, it's one I highly recommend if you love Ninja Gaiden. It's just amazing game. Next we have Harvest Moon Island of Happiness. So this isn't my favorite Harvest Moon. It's pretty basic, pretty boring, and you know, like I love Harvest Moon, I love, you know, farming sim games, but this one just a little too slow for me, and you know, a lot of trial and error I found, especially at the beginning. So yeah, maybe you guys like it and everything, but for me, just I prefer other Harvest Moon experiences. Next we have SimCity DS, and this was quite disappointing, you know, because this, like, the DS is the perfect handheld to have a Sim City or, you know, building sim game on here, but this one, it felt like they just put SimCity on DS rather than make a SimCity for the DS, if you know what I mean by that, right? Where it just felt like, okay, we'll put a base version of SimCity here just to have it on the DS, rather than like, okay, we have the DS, it's going to be having technical limitations, but let's be creative with this. Let's put a lot of work and effort into this. And yeah, that just wasn't the case, so you're very limited on what you can do, and yeah, just not the greatest. Then we have Spore Creatures, and another one that I found to be okay, but not my favorite. It's just, I kind of more got annoyed with this one because, yeah, it's found like these creatures killed me so fast, and I didn't really know what to do, and it was just, not really for me. Maybe you guys might like Spore Creatures, but for me, yeah, it was just, there wasn't much to say, just, I didn't really love this game. Then we have The Legend of Spyro Eternal Night on DS, and this one was, you know, okay for being a DS game. Like, it reminds me a lot of N64 platformers because you got the fog effect here and things like that, and you know, controls solid enough. But yeah, the Legend of Spyro games were okay, but never they could never find a proper way to reboot it. Like, they didn't quite know what to do. It felt like with Spyro rebooting it into an action kind of game, right? And felt like the series kept getting worse and worse as it went on, because the first game was a pretty solid start, and then the second game was kind of mediocre, and then the third game was just full of like frame rate issues, right? So kind of not great to play, but you know, this version on the DS, it's alright. And finally, we have my Japanese import games, just 4 of them here. We start with Cross of Venus RPG, something like that, and yeah, sorry, can't say too much about this because unfortunately there's no English patch for this as of yet, and probably won't be, right? I just like, looked cool, it was super cheap, I got it for like $2 or $3, right? So I'm like, I'll try it, and yeah, it just seemed like it kind of cool setup. It seemed like it was going to be one of these sort of almost horror RPGs in a way, right? And combat-wise was pretty fun, but yeah, I can't read, so it's kind of hard to progress, and yeah, not much to say about this, unfortunately. Then we have Death Note Elwu Sugu Mono, which successors to L, I guess it translates to, I don't know, but anyways, I got this because I love Death Note, and these Death Note games on DS were very cheap, but another one I can't really play because there's no English patch, and it's too bad because it looked kind of interesting. It looks like you start with trying to track down Naomi before she gets to the police station, right, and to try and get her to say her name to you, right, to Light, and yeah, but I don't know how to play, so unfortunately, yeah, can't say too much, but again, got it because I love Death Note and everything like that. Then we have Death Note Kira game. Now this one does have an English patch, so I kind of started this, I'm like, this could be interesting, because yeah, it's kind of weird. You, L, and the rest of the investigators are playing this Kira game as a way to help find out who Kira is. So you're either on the side of L or Kira, and so you're trying to get people on your side. You're building up trust or creating doubt in certain people, right? So that when you vote, it's kind of Among Us type situation of like, okay, you're Light, you got a bunch of trust from people, you manipulate enough people, so now, okay, well, people will vote for what you want to vote against and things like that, right? So it's kind of interesting. I might want, I may check this game out a little bit. It seems to be a bit trial and error of how it kind of works with the Kira game and its setup, but I'm pretty interested in it. I love Death Note, so yeah, it seems kind of cool. And then the final game we have here is Ash Archaic Sealed Heat by Mistwalker. So this one is too bad that it never came out outside Japan, and all signs pointing it to coming out because it had an ESRB rating, I believe. I believe it also had an English voice cast. I may have even read the entire script, right? But for whatever reason, it just never did, and it's too bad because this is a really fun, excellent title by Mistwalker of, tactical RPG style where this fire snake creature comes and, attacks your kingdom, turns everyone except for your main character into ash, and yeah, then these people who are ash come back into human selves, and, they don't know why they're now made of ash and things like that. So yeah, you're trying to figure all that out, and it's just, yeah, excellent characters, excellent story, and man, it's just too bad it never came out here, but it's great that it at least has an English patch for people to play and enjoy, right? So yeah, that's pretty cool, and I hope you enjoyed looking at my DS collection. Let me know all your thoughts down in the comments down below, and let's do the outro now. And so that's my entire collection for the Nintendo DS. I hope you enjoyed this, and like I said, let me know in the comments what you think down below. I would love to hear all your thoughts. What are your favorite DS games you have played and beaten? What games do you recommend me try and pick up and everything? Because I know I still have a pretty small collection compared to a lot of other systems I have, right? Like, Switch, I have well over 100 games, and I think like PS4 has to be about 200, 250 or more, right? Probably same with like Xbox 360, maybe PS2 as well, right? So yeah, I'm always looking for new DS games to play because there's such unique games out there. There's such unique gameplay for that handheld, and while sometimes not the biggest fan of touch controls only, there are some games that play really well, like the Ninja Gaiden Dragon Sword was a lot of fun to play, and Alice in Wonderland was pretty cool too, right? So again, yeah, I would love to hear all your thoughts. I really hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching. I always appreciate it, and yeah, let me know what other collection videos you want me to cover in my collection. Some I have only about 10 or 20 games, and then others I have well over 100. I'm thinking maybe I'll do PS3 next, something that I haven't done on the channel yet before, so we'll see. But yeah, let me know, and I'll see you next time, everyone. Thanks, have a great rest of your day. Hey everyone, thanks for watching, really appreciate it. If you enjoyed what you saw, be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to see more. Also follow me on X, Twitch, Bluesky, and I am back on Facebook now. All links will be on my About page, so follow me there. Even if it's just for the skits I do, I need someone to follow me. Okay, probably not the best way to encourage people, but anyways, I'll see you next time. Have a great day, everyone!